It's a piece of skin, like leather.
From all corners of the earth, they gather to study the mystifying frozen fossil, a reptilian tale that grows into a giant of terror.
It's alive! It's loose!
You have been invited here to see for yourselves one of the most amazing events in the annals of scientific history.
Reptilicus, a monstrous, massive beast whose astounding appearance causes panic.
Reptilicus approaching the city. Repeat, Reptilicus approaching the city.
This is Grayson. All units, fire at will.
Reptilicus, an annihilating mastodon, immune to all known weapons of warfare, creating chaos such as mankind has never before known.
Anyway, yeah, this was whatchamacallit, Sid Pink produced it. He had produced what was it, Journey to the Seventh Planet, and what was the other one? Angry Red Planet before this. He had worked with Ed Melchior, who did a lot of stuff for AIP. I think he worked on Queen of Blood, and he wrote the premise for Death Race 2000, and I think, not for AIP, but I think he wrote the story for, Robinson Crusoe on Mars.
Oh, no kidding.
And I believe he is credited with the idea of Space Family Robinson, which became Lost in Space, but I can't remember the whole story behind that, but I believe, there's something behind the scenes there, including the comic book and all that stuff. So yeah, he was Melchior was an interesting writer. There's books about him, and Pink was an interesting producer. So a lot of interesting people making movies in the 60s and 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was sort of almost like a Wild West.
Sure.
On that attitude,
And they were going to other countries to make movies too, not in America, for a lot of reasons, cheaper, no unions, all that kind of stuff, and maybe those countries were giving them better deals than they were getting here in the U.S. or whatever, but and they were importing a lot of movies back then, a lot of Italian, Black Sunday, all those gothics, and and then AIP started making their own gothics with the Edgar Allan Poe movies, which were like what were probably big budget movies for AIP. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, well, you had named actors,
Vincent Price
and
Barbara Steele,
and you also had lavish sets.
Yeah, that kept being used over and over again in other movies, and a lot of recycling in some of those movies. But Reptilicus Reptilicus doesn't have any recycling, but what Reptilicus has is a lot of re-editing and they added that stupid green slime special effect to it.
Yeah, the acid spit.
Yeah. I believe they also added that crappy scene where like he takes the kid out of the cabin and eats him or whatever, that terrible effect. You remember it. There's a scene where like Reptilicus is in the countryside and there's like a cabin with people, and all of a sudden it's like he goes in and you can see this crappy shot of Reptilicus and the little cutout of the kid going in his mouth. Yeah, that was ordered by AIP because apparently when Pink gave him the finished movie, they didn't like it, and there was some kind of problems and lawsuits, and and AIP and some of the editors, and I believe Ib Melchior did stuff to the movie. I don't think Sid Pink was real happy with it, but it came out theatrically, Yeah. And back then, all the Godzilla movies were the rage, so this is kind of like,
Yeah, the Danish version of, like you said, the Godzilla.
And I believe the Danish people disavow this movie. They're not proud of it.
No, probably not. Although I have to tell you, I remember seeing this as a kid, and this is like, would be the perfect movie I would watch.
Yeah?
Like this, the perfect, because it's an easy to follow plot.
Yeah, sure.
It has a goofy looking monster, but it also kind of looks cool to like an 8-year-old.
Exactly.
Or a 7-year-old. And not too much smoochy or kissy or anything like that.
No, none of that.
There seems to be some of that there, but now the version I watched, I think it's like a composite or a different edit from the one I saw on TV.
How so?
Well, the handyman, he's less goofy.
Oh yeah,
in this one, and
Dirk Passer, I think, is his real name.
Yeah, and the person who allowed Reptilicus to grow was the lab assistant, not the goofy janitor.
Okay, well, in the one that you watched, did Reptilicus fly?
No.
In the Danish version of this, Reptilicus flies.
I know, he flies. So I think, that's what I'm saying, I think this is sort of a different cut, maybe some more European cut than the American.
I just watched the one
cut
that YouTube said free with ads, which was the regular American version of the...
Yeah, see, I watched mine on archive.org.
Oh,
and I think
Archives,
that might be a different version. Like I said, it might have gone to Australia or...
Oh, who knows? Does Internet Archive...
Yeah, who knows?
I'm sorry, does Internet Archives claim that everything on there is public domain? Because I don't think it is.
I don't think so either, but they do say it's public domain. And sometimes I've looked at stuff, and then I've gone back to look at it, and it says it's been removed. So unless somebody challenges it,
because
they say it's public.
It sure seems to me like MGM owns Reptilicus.
Yeah.
And it was...
Well, maybe a certain edit of the movie, and maybe a different edit.
Maybe the Danish version is not owned by... But it's, of course, in another language. But Reptilicus just came out on Blu-ray, too. So more reasons to think that it's not in public domain. But I guess if nobody... goes after them, then it's on there. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff on the Internet Archive. My friend just downloaded a lot of Japanese sci-fi television on there, and I was like, really, that's on there? It's public domain? And it's like, I don't know, but I'm getting it. I was like, all right.
It could also be copyright. Different
countries
have different copyright rules and copyright agreements with other countries.
Yeah, but definitely Reptilicus was made for AIP, and AIP's movies have been sold to other companies, and now they're in the hands of MGM, so I'm assuming it's not, but whatever. Yeah, it's interesting. So they had a composite. Did they have because I know in the Danish version they have the Dirk Passer, I forgot what his name in the movie was, but the goofy handyman. Did he do a song?
No, did he?
There's in the Danish one, he does a song, and then there's another song that's like
the Tivoli.
It's
like a scenic thing. They're showing you different places in.
There's a
Tivoli,
there's a song called Reptilicus, but he does a kid's song in the original version of it. So.
I think. Well, I remember him going out to see the kids and stuff. So he may have.
Okay.
Because sometimes with musicals, I just turn my ears off and just
Yeah,
wait for
I
the
fast
scene
forward through the Reptilicus song because it's like, I've seen it, I've heard it before, and I'm not impressed with it. So,
So that's what I mean. I don't think the Tivoli song.
Tivoli Nights, that was it.
Yeah, appears in the American movie, but in the one I saw, it did.
There is a book there's a screenplay, a Reptilicus, the screenplay book that came out, which has information on this movie. So there is something out there, but this movie is not. I mean, it's weird. It's one of those weird ones that kids that saw it, like you talking about, remember it fondly, but a lot of critics don't. But that's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I know they have some cool models of it.
Yeah.
That you can buy, but of course they're always they're collectors, so they're super expensive.
Yeah, Sid Pink passed away, so I guess nobody's suing anybody for using it now, but
Yeah. Okay.
Because inevitably. So anyway, yeah, there's the Danish version is different a little bit, not, and it is out on it might be out on DVD, but I know it was out on VHS, so, but I recommend the American one or whatever, but yeah, there wasn't any lovey-dovey. They were almost trying to set up like with the blonde Ann Smyrner with the captain, but they didn't really.
Yeah, they didn't see it through.
They didn't put it through. And in reality, the last part of the movie is just them chasing Reptilicus all over the place or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about what goes on in this movie.
Okay, so it starts with you see they're drilling for copper or something like that in I think it's Lapland, and the guy they pull up the drill, and the guy's maneuvering it, and he looks down in his hands and he sees he has blood on it, and he's like, what the hell? So then they look and they start digging around the drill, and they find a big lump of like leathery. It looked like
steaks, meat.
Yeah, something. So they halt operation. They call out a couple of paleontologists who, for some reason, work in an aquarium. But whatever. So they bring the tail back, and they're in the aquarium, and that's where you meet the main doctor.
So that thing that they drilled out of the ground, was that the tail?
No, that was part of it.
So
they had
into
drilled the tail. Right. Okay. So it was growing. So then they bring it to. Hold on, I get a different set of notes that are more complete.
Well, yeah, they bring it in there and they put it in their. They put it in freezing cold, so they figure that's going to keep it from, expanding or whatever.
Yeah, from deteriorating. They want to study it, and that they discovered. Wait a minute, it's like living tissue or something like that. I don't know. So you see the one guy, and he cuts into it, and he's working late, and he went into the freezer where they're keeping the tail, and he cuts a piece off it to look under a microscope, and then he goes to close the freezer door, but he doesn't do it all the way. This is the version I saw.
Yeah, that's the one I saw.
Okay, so then it stays open a bit, and in the meantime, you see the night watchman. He's walking. He's sort of there for comic relief.
Peterson.
So he's walking around.
Is his name.
Peterson, yeah, and doing doofy things. He's looking at he keeps looking at the electric eel tank, wondering, what they're doing. So because the scientist assistant he falls asleep at his desk.
Yeah, and there's like lightning. There's like lightning going on.
Yeah, there's a storm going on. Yeah, so because the door was open, this giant, the tail's like about 6 or 7 foot long, and it's just the tail, and there was a hole cut into it where the drill hit it. So it's the next morning, and the scientist comes in, and he's all freaking out because the tail had thawed, and they're looking at it, the scientists, and they say, "Wait a minute, the hole where the drill hit, it's healing over." So then it's like, "Oh, this thing is regenerating, it's growing," and so then for some reason the military's called in.
And there's another lady scientist called in too. The military and another female scientist.
Yes. I mean, you can see the scientists being called in, but I don't know why they're called in the military. So then you have this sort of, very brisk and abrupt American colonel or whatever the hell he is. He's like shouting out orders and very abrupt that we're doing this and this and this. They're having meetings, and he's like, this is a special specimen, we have to take care of this. So then they're tracking the growth of this thing, and then this another night where there's a storm out, and then Sven's walking around, and then he sticks his hand in the not Sven, what's his name? Peterson sticks his hand in the electric eel tank and gets a shock, and then he sees some movement in because they had transferred the tail, which now has a 2 legs attached to it. They transfer it to a larger tank, and he sees something moving. He spooks. The power goes out, and he goes to the assistant and tells him what's happening, and the assistant sees him. He says, "Go," and the assistant tells Peterson, "Go to the police. Tell them what's going on." So Peterson goes to the police. The doctor comes back with a flashlight and is going to look to see what's up, and then Reptilicus breaks through. The full Reptilicus breaks through and this, destroys part of the building and kills
you don't see
the
it
doctor.
At this point. Yeah, you just see the destruction.
No, you don't see it. Yeah, you don't see it at this point. And then
so what did they have a power surge because it thawed out?
Yeah, they had a power surge.
The tail thawed out, and that's when it started growing, I guess.
Yeah, and then exactly. So then it the police come and they're looking around. They're looking around what's happening. Then they call the main professor and the army, and they're looking at the destruction. And then in the meantime, you see this guy's on a fishing boat, and then suddenly Reptilicus comes up and shoots him with his acid spit.
Yeah.
And you see people in the village near the shore panicking and running away and stuff. So then they order planes to go out and circle the area looking for the monster. And
they go to a farm, and the farm guy tells them that something ate 14 cows or something.
That's right.
Like that.
Yeah, and he's all like, they're tracking the monster, so there's like a swath of destruction, and like you said, eating cows and whatever. So they're running around, and they find Reptilicus, and they start shooting at him and trying to hit him with bombs and stuff. And
they try to burn him too.
With not
flamethrowers.
Flamethrowers.
Fire extinguishers. Yeah. Right.
And then you see that's where Reptilicus eats the person, and I think he eats a cow too.
Yeah, that's when he goes into the farmhouse, and the family's eating their dinner, and he goes in there and he pulls the kid out or whatever.
Yeah. So then they're shooting at Reptilicus, so he goes into the water, and they can't, they're looking around, and they have they had, like you see in all war movies, they have that big map of the land with like little toy cars and tanks and ships and stuff on it that they move around with those sticks, and they're trying to track Reptilicus. And then there's a scene where he attacks a amusement park.
Yeah.
And so then they're starting to shoot at him, and he's moving through the town.
Well, when they burned him, Reptilicus got hurt a little bit, but then he goes back into the sea, and that's when he regenerates or whatever. And at some point, at some point they want to blow him up, and the female doctor says, "Don't blow him up because it looks like he can regenerate, and then he could have multiple Reptilicuses or whatever." Right,
but before he stopped them, they were throwing depth charges.
And he blew up his leg, or blew up a leg or something.
Blew off
which grew back.
Yes. So then they're dropping bait to try and lure Reptilicus to a certain area, and they're using high frequency noises. Well, again, this is the one I saw.
That's the same one.
And then they're ready. So what they're going to do is they're going to make this big tranquilizer dart and put it in a bazooka, and then shoot it into his mouth.
Well, before that, there's also scenes of Reptilicus. One of the scientists had a heart attack, and he had to go to the hospital. Then you see Reptilicus hits the beach, and there's a bunch of scenes of Reptilicus showing up in places or whatever, and then and then they finally figure out. Somebody figures out. They tell him, "Don't blow him up," but somebody figures out to get a trank and blow
trank into his mouth.
And then they said, "You put the tranquilizer. That'll knock him out, and then the doctor will know what to do." Really? What's the doctor going to do with this giant monster? Where are they going to stick him, and where are they going to tear him into pieces? What are they going to do? Never explained.
I think they were going to. I think they were probably trying to either burn it, because the head scientist said he's like a salamander. He can regrow limbs and stuff, even his more complex organisms like a head.
And there's scenes throughout where it's like Reptilicus hits the city, and there's that famous scene where the people are trying to get away from him on the bridge, and they're actually really jumping, and the bridge opens, and they're having to jump off the bridge, and bicycles fall into the river and all that stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of. At this point in the movie, there's a lot of chasing Reptilicus going here and there, and the army doesn't know what to do, and blah blah blah. But yeah, they've ended up deciding to give him a tranquilizer. So
yeah. So finally, I think they end up killing him, Reptilicus, after they fire the dart or the tranquilizer. You see Reptilicus roar, and does he fall into the sea, or he dies and he goes into the sea? No. The one that I saw was they give him the dart, and he passes out, and then they go, oh, now the doctor will be able to take care of this, and we'll be fine. And the commander, the colonel, and then all of a sudden the last scene is you see the foot, that blew off in the sea in a question mark. That's the one that I saw. Well, the one I saw, they kill him, he dies, he goes into the sea, and then they're like, okay, well, it's the last we saw of him. And then the leg that was blown off, you see it in the bottom of the ocean twitching.
That's not what I remember. So I don't know. I just remember him being knocked out.
Well, that's the one I saw. That's the version. That's what I'm saying. It's
somebody edited some other stuff in it or whatever.
Yeah, I guess. But because if he can regenerate, how can you kill it? The ending seemed like really rushed, like they didn't know what to do or how to finish it.
That's exactly right. I mean, the beginning of it is slow, and then after a certain point, it just moves fast, and then the conclusion is knock it out. And like I said, the one that I saw, they didn't kill it; they just knocked it out, and he was just lying there.
Okay.
And they said, we'll take care of him now, because they didn't want to blow him up or do anything to him because they didn't want him to regenerate. And then they show the leg, and then they put the question mark thing: is this going to regenerate into another Reptilicus? So. Right. Now I don't know what composite they made or they didn't, but like I said before, in the Danish version, Reptilicus flies.
Yeah, see, and mine, even though it had some scenes that weren't in the American one, he never flew in this one.
Did they specify that it was a composite when you looked it up on Internet Archive?
I don't remember. Let me see if I can find it again.
Because I'm wondering if there was stuff in the Danish version that they edited it in there, but because I don't remember them killing them, just knocking them out, you know. And I was like, wow, that's pretty inconclusive there. They're just gonna, you know, they're just gonna like freeze him to death or bury him, or what the hell are they gonna do to this monster?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It says this is the American version, but
well, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. So it's weird. But again, you know, a lot of times there's so many versions depending on what TV channel showed it and where they got it from originally, and you know.
Yeah.
Maybe this was a drive-in version.
No, I you know, I'll have to. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
do some research.
I thought there was just one American one, except for the re-edit that they did to the Danish one, and there was a Danish version of it. That was it. I didn't know there was any other tinkering with it or whatever. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's any. I mean, I didn't read of any. You know. Yeah, they were shot simultaneously. There's two films started in July '60. They were shot simultaneously. One by director Poul Bang in Danish, and the other one by Sid Pink. The only difference is in the cast of the two films is UNESCO representative Connie Miller, played by Danish actress Bodil Miller, in Bang's Danish-language film, and because the latter could not speak English, by German actress Marla Behrens in Pink's English. Says that's one difference in it. Yeah, Pink was angry at the changes. We'll end up after they changed the movie, when AIP didn't like it, Pink was angry, and they had a legal dispute, and the lawsuit was dropped, and it was finally released in the United States. And you know, there was problems with Pink and whatchamacallit in Denmark about, you know, they accused him of stuff, you know, of not, you know, money stuff. So, you know, yeah, I can't. Let's see, released in '62. Reptilicus wrote negative reviews. Yeah, right. I don't know. I don't know of any. I don't know of any different. You know, version of it or whatever. You know. It says here, however, the film is left. Okay, here's what it says here, which is what I remember watching. Once fully regenerated from the tail section, Reptilicus goes on an unstoppable rampage from the Danish countryside to the panic-stricken streets of Copenhagen. Of course, it talks about the famous bridge scene. The monster is finally rendered unconscious by a sedative developed by ingenious scientists and shot into its mouth fired by General Grayson. However, the film is left open-ended. The final shot shows one of the Reptilicus legs has been blown off earlier by the Danish Navy's Death Shark, beginning to move on its own, raising the possibility. So I don't know. I don't remember anything about them killing him at the end, just leaving him unconscious, which I thought was like, so they like leaving it open for something new, or they just didn't know.
Or that, or like they did with the Blob, you know, put a big question mark to let you know that. You know, the danger is still there.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a few, like, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's what, you know. If you watch this movie when you were a kid, you'll probably like enjoy it. If you're new to it, you're probably
what the hell's going on? Very simplified plot, and it had like an odd timber to it at times, you know, because some of it looked like, again, this is what I saw. There were there's one scene where the daughter of the scientist is taking the major around and to show him Copenhagen, and in the edit, he's the one telling her what city and town they're visiting, and giving different historical anecdotes about the place. Like, I mean, it's like, wait a minute, you're the visitor. She's showing you around. Why are you telling her? Very strange.
And then you get a travelogue of Denmark, and then you get them going into the Tivoli, doing the song Tivoli Nights. And like I said earlier, I don't know if I said it on the show, but we talked about it before. In the Danish version, there's another song about Reptilicus sung by Goofy Peterson.
That one I didn't. Yeah,
which was taken out.
Didn't see. No, wait, no.
That's the Danish
I did see that.
one. Yeah.
He was singing. I do remember that now.
Then you saw a different. I don't know what version you saw.
This has to be. I think it's mislabeled, according to Internet Archive. Because
the one that I saw, that scene where he sings to the kids, was taken out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if somebody did some funny business.
Maybe they
whatever.
They did a swap here and there, so it wouldn't be recognized by an algorithm as.
It's possible, because the Danish version is probably public domain, because I don't think they want anything to do with it, even though they did put it out on VHS, so... They did put it out on VHS, so obviously there's something to it, but, you know... They ruined the monster movie... not that many monster movies or horror movies came out of Denmark that I know of. Maybe there are a few, I don't know, but... you know, maybe there are a few. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on Danish cinema or whatever, but yeah, anyway, so that's basically it for Reptilicus. It's a very simple plot. It's a very basic movie. I don't know. I kind of liked it. I thought it was boring at first, but I mean, I'd seen it before, but it's been many years since I saw it. But, you know, once it got rolling, it wasn't boring. It was all right.
Yeah, it was fun. And again, it's a simple, perfect example of a B movie that we watched when, you know, in the 60s. And 70s.
I never saw it as a kid.
Oh, I lost you.
I'm here.
Okay, that's weird. It's my thing was loose. The connection to the thing got loose, so I hit it by accident.
Yeah. No, I mean, I never saw it as a kid. The only thing I remember seeing of this movie all the time was the poster by Reynolds Brown, which is a classic poster, but that was it. I don't remember ever seeing it. But as a kid, I never went out of my way to watch giant monster movies. When I was little, I may have watched a few of them, but by the time I was like 11 or 12, you know, the Godzilla stuff, for whatever reason, some kids thought it was great. Me and my friends thought they were silly, so we never watched them. As the years went on, I grew to like them more, knowing more about them, but at the time, I just wanted to see, you know, Universal or Italian horror.
Yeah, you wanted,
you know, stuff that was more down to earth. Not, for lack of a better term, not as fantastic. Now, Kong and Mighty Joe Young and the Harryhausen stuff, I always loved because it looked really cool. The way they sculpted it looked really cool. Some of the puppetry and some of the men in suits and the Japanese and all this stuff was kind of like, wow, that's really
fakey.
I'm
the same way. I was never a big Godzilla fan early on, and even now it's okay. I mean, I would watch them because they were monster movies.
I like it now, you know. It's fun. It's from the era, you know. It's fun.
And then
the one I like the best of those Godzilla style movies was the what's it called, the Gargantua, the two
battle.
Because those look kind of cool, you know what I mean?
Gargantua or something like that. Yeah, War of the
Gargantuas. Yeah, that one I like. Even though it has its moments, but you know, I like it. And it's funny how some of these movies had to have a musical number in them. I guess they figured, well, if parents are taking the kids, we need to have something for the old folks. So let's give them a song or a dance number or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think that was,
you know what I mean?
That was part of the mindset, because in a lot of comedies they always seemed to have a song too. Like all the Marx Brothers movies, they had music, and the hero. They were never the heroes, but the hero was always singing to the cute girl, and then you had there was a scene where Harpo played the harp, and Chico played the piano, which is that's all right. I mean, because he did it in a fun way. But you know, when you had the hero singing "I love you" to the girl, it's like, oh God.
Yeah, I know, it's a little bit, it's a bit much, you know, but that was back in the
30s and 40s.
30s and 40s or whatever, you know, but still the musical numbers, I mean, Border Gargantua's got a musical number, chick singing a song, and then she gets eaten, you know.
Yeah.
So she paid the price for that, you know, and stuff like that. So that stuff kind of like, it was like, oh, as a kid, I was probably watching these. I go, we really need a musical number here, you know, just get to the you know, the basics or whatever. I did see as a little kid, when I first moved to Florida, I did take, my parents actually took me to see Frankenstein Conquers the World and Tarzan the Valley of Gold. And as like what was that, 66, I was what? 7 or 8 or something. I did like Frankenstein Conquers the World, so I did like that at that point. You know what I mean? But it was in the theater too, so it was kind of cool. But when I got to be 10 or 11 and 12, it was like, not so much.
Yeah.
Plus, the Frankenstein guy wasn't a guy in a suit. He was just a guy that was growing. So it was like, you know, oh, okay, this guy's growing giant size. Okay, that's cool. So, you know, maybe there was something in my psyche about giant animals fighting each other. I don't know what to tell you. You know, but I did like Kong. I did like Mighty Joe Young. I did like Son of Kong, and I did like the Harryhausen. So there you go.
Well, they had a different feel because he tried to be realistic and have. There
was an art. There was an art to it.
Just the guy in the rubber suit or the rubberized. Yeah.
It was cheap. It was cheap looking. Sorry.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
To me, as a kid, it was. You could see that the tanks were miniatures. They were obviously miniatures.
There was and they kept showing the outside of the aquarium, which was obviously a.
Well, I'm talking about Japanese movie, not this one. This one, the outside the aquarium, I get it.
Yeah, you can tell they're miniatures, and sometimes you even like the flying things, jets and whatnot. You can even see the strings, so it's like whatever.
Yeah. I mean, as a little kid, it didn't get through me. But as a 12-year-old, I was like, oh man, this is really. I guess that's the way kids feel now when they see these old movies and they look at CGI.
Yeah, what is this?
Look at this stuff now. CGI is like so much better, you know what I mean? But that's the way it goes, you know. And CGI sucks, but that's it's just saying. But anyway, so Reptilicus, fun movie. It's 90 minutes, but the beginning is slow, but it picks up, and it's not going to be that horrible of a watch, you know. It's kind of a blast from the past in a way, you know, of a certain time.
Perfect movie, a perfect example of a B movie that monster kids would watch on television.
Yeah, the perfect creature feature Saturday morning, you know, after the cartoons kind of movie or whatever. That's what it usually was. It was like the cartoons, and then like in the afternoon when those were done, you either get a Tarzan movie or a sci-fi or a horror movie. And then if you're lucky, you get another one at night, you know. So those are the days.
It's not the same when you stream for some reason. You know, I don't know why.
No.
It's just not.
There's something about like looking at the TV guide and waiting for it, anticipating that you're going to see it. Oh man, I can't wait to see, you know, War of the Gargantuas Saturday after the cartoons. There's something about that, and just sitting there and going like, it's a whole.
And it was like because it was Saturday morning and afternoon. It was like your day to be you. You know, you didn't have to go to school or if you.
Unfortunately, if you only had one TV and your dad was there, he might not. That's the other problem, you know. You had a dad that liked this kind of stuff.
Yeah, he liked science fiction and fantasy. Although, like he would watch it, and as soon as because he read so much, and he would always go to the movies. He could figure out the plot. So halfway through, he goes, I'm going to go somewhere else. And like, don't you want to watch the end of the movie? He goes, I kind of figured it out.
Oh, so he even gave up on him. Okay.
But which is funny because when I was a kid, I thought, how can he do that? What is he? But now, after watching all these movies and stuff, you can kind of figure out who's the bad guy. You know.
No, just that. You've read about all these movies throughout the years, so you already know. Now, when you saw this, would it have been in the afternoon or at night?
It would probably be in the
Do
afternoon.
you remember? Oh, so your dad was probably
on Saturday,
there.
yeah.
Well, he was nice because my dad, when we just had a TV, if it was on in the afternoon, and he wanted to watch something, that was it, you know. So luckily, a lot of the movies showed late at night when maybe you had a chance to grab the TV.
That I would do. And I had an older brother.
That would be the best
I had an older brother
time,
and a younger sister, so even then there was some competition as to what to watch.
Oh yeah. My friend told me one time back in the '60s that he was walking down the street one day, and he found somebody had thrown away TV in the '60s. I'm talking about in the mid '60s, and he just picked it up and took it home, and the damn thing worked. So he had his own TV, so he could watch all the monster movies and stuff like that with his little crappy. I'm imagining somebody threw it out because they either got a color TV or they figured, this is. He got a better one or whatever. But he told me, it was just like he watched late night movies.
Wow,
and I'm like,
man,
you're
that's
lucky,
nice.
man.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of because our TV was like a piece of furniture. It was this big thing. It was about 4 or 5 foot long, giant, big screen, which I think was 27 inches or whatever, and it had 2 loud speakers on the side. So this thing was heavy. And like it was a piece of furniture. It wasn't like what we have now, like portable TVs. This thing was humongous. Yeah, even like a few years ago, before these like flat screens came out, I remember dragging around a 27-inch TV, and that thing weighed like 50 pounds or something. There's no way to grab it. It was awkward, yeah. Like, holy freaking.
I mean, when we moved to St. Pete, I gave them away or dumped them. We got new flat screen ones because it was like, I'm tired of dragging this monster around, I can barely lift it up, But we had them like 12, 13 years ago. We still had flat screen TV. We still had 27-inch big, because people would give them to us. I remember we had one and somebody gave us one. It was like, we don't need it anymore. I was like, okay, put it in the small living room. My mom will watch it or whatever, and it worked fine, but not good for. I mean, these things are easy to deal with, these flat screens, and they're relatively cheap, or they were. I don't know now.
But
it
depends on what all the doodads and whiz bang things you get with it. I mean, even the first sort of flat TVs were heavy, but the one I have now, it's like 57 inches or 3 or whatever. Was like 10 pounds or something, maybe. Man, they're so light now. I remember for a while when I was a kid, like in the mid '70s, my parents actually got me a color TV for my room, and I ended up screwing it up because I left a glass of water, and the water got into the mechanism, and that was it. So I was like, "You're SOL, buddy." So I had to go out and get like a crappy black and white TV. That was fine. It was fine. I had it there, and I would watch the movies, and it was all good or whatever. But that's the way it was back then. My parents had they bought a color TV. I don't know how they did it, but they bought a color TV in like '68 or '69. So we did have one. But I was thinking now, I must have watched stuff like Batman and black and white. I did too. I found a picture. It was funny. I was going through some boxes yesterday, and I was looking for some papers, and I found this envelope, and it's got pictures of me and my family throughout the years, and I found pictures. One of them was from New York, and I'm standing in front of the TV that we watched, and I'm talking about in the early '60s, and it was like this little, like, I don't know, 15-inch, 12-inch TV in the living room. That was it, and I'm going like, wow, that thing is tiny. We all used to sit in front of the living room and watch that. It really, I remember it being bigger, but then I was a kid, so it was bigger. Like, oh, that's funny. My grandmother, she used to live with us. She had this thing. It was like 3 foot wide and 4 foot tall. It was an old TV. It's probably, I don't know, one of the first TVs. And it had these giant, these big knobs on it, and then underneath was the speaker. And the screen was literally 12 or 10 diagonal. It was so damn tiny. And because she couldn't see good, she always had the contrast and brightness turned up, so she could at least see some shapes moving. But man,
I know. Back then we were like,
yeah.
Now we're spoiled.
Oh yeah, I'm sure in the next 10 years things are really gonna. People will be walking around with eyeglasses on, watching shows. Well, they're doing that now. What the stupid things. Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's gonna be a mess if we last that long. If we don't blow it. Well, anyway. That's our movie for the day. Reptilicus.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Check it out. It's on YouTube, free with ads. Yeah. Nice copy, So
yeah, worth
watching. But in the meantime, while we're gone for the next few weeks, what should we be doing?
What you should be doing
buddy?
is you should watch more B movies.